I know what to look for in the house because it will be reflected in the house. And the other thing that's really interesting after doing this for quite some time now is I can walk into a home and I know what the house is telling me.
Welcome to the Mindful Method podcast, where we don't just fill your ears, we fill your mind with the tools to enhance your emotional and physical reality. I'm your host, Jordana Sade, here to guide you on this journey of the body-brain connection and help you take your power back to create the life you've always wanted. So grab a seat, because class is in session and our method is on the syllabus. Here at the Mindful Clinic, we're not just changing your mind, we're changing your life. One mindful moment at a time. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Mindful Method podcast. Today, I am joined by a very exciting guest. I was so excited to just read all about her bio, and it is very, very timely. And you'll understand why if you're one of my clients or if you're just in my world in general, because this is something that I've spent the past 2 years really trying to cultivate within myself, but genuinely cannot explain for the life of me. I don't know what's going on. I can't explain it. I just know how to do it. And so I'm so excited to welcome Alejandra, and she is going to introduce herself. And if you could also just tell us a little bit about your story and what what brought you here.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here already. I think just talking off the recording that we're going to have fun. I can feel it. It's always good. You just get that vibe.
Yeah.
So my name is Alejandra Brady, and I am a whole bunch of things at this point in time. There's a lot of hyphens to my name. I'm going to be 57 on Saturday, so I guess I've earned all these hyphens.
No.
Yeah,
I thought
I am.
20. I thought you were younger than me. I was you look
Oh God,
amazing.
no. Oh, thank you, my love. But yeah, 57.
Wow.
So aside from wife and mom, and our son is almost 30 and married and grown and doing his own beautiful thing with his gorgeous wife in DC, I have been an interior designer for over 20 years. Then at 50, because of a series of events, I added Feng Shui. So I am a certified Feng Shui consultant. I am now also a certified biophilic consultant, biophilic design, and certified crystal healer. But I use that as a way to bring crystals into your home when I'm designing your home. I'm not touching and doing, crystal grids on people, but I use the knowledge that I gained from my certification to help people pick crystals for their homes that will help them if they resonate with crystals. Not all of my clients do, but most of them do. And then, yes, at the very end of all this comes best-selling author for my book. I just can't make this bleep. But can we say it? Can we say the whole name?
Of course.
Oh, I just can't make this shit up.
So good. And also, I'll be getting a copy of that book. But I would love to know, you were from a series of events, I'd like to know just, you went from interior designer to this very spiritual, incorporating so many different, I'll speak for myself here, but the interior design aspect of it, we're looking at the physical matter, right? And we know that the physical matter is 0.001% of what's actually going on. So you were obviously, something happened that motivated you to look into what's the other 99%, and how can we activate that or tap into that. And I'd love to hear your process through that.
So what happened was I turned 50 in September of that year. And in October, I started dropping things. It was really weird. Nothing was staying in my hands. I just started dropping things. So I went to see my doctor, and they did an MRI on my neck, which I was like, no, there's something wrong with my hand. He goes, no, it's your neck. And I ended up having to go in for cervical fusion. So there is a titanium plate that holds my neck up. Yeah. So with screws, cadaver bones. I know it's fun. Now I love thinking about that. And mesh and, all the other accoutrements that you have to have when you have a cervical fusion. So that forced me to stop. And now in hindsight, looking back, as I wrote the book, because the book is about my spiritual journey. So now that I have the dots connected, right, I can see that 3 years before that, at 47, I suddenly had to have a hysterectomy with a bladder surgery that went way wrong. So I had to learn to catheterize myself for 6 months every time I had to go to the bathroom. Then they fixed it. So that was a second surgery. Then I went into lower lumbar fusion, all in 10 months. So I'm finally kind of getting my groove back from all of that, and I get hit with the cervical fusion. And what I didn't do after the first surgeries, I had to do after this one. There was nowhere to go. I couldn't drive. I couldn't do anything in the house other than literally watch TV because you're in a neck brace that keeps your head like almost so straight up that you can't look down. And you're in that for about 6 to 8 weeks. So it forced a hard stop, which I just had not done myself beforehand. And it was at that point that a whole bunch of stuff started shifting. I had a client because I've done high-end interiors for, at that point, like 15 years. And she was very energetically in tuned. And I was not consciously at the time.
Mhm.
And she said, I'm having a Feng Shui consultant come to my house. Do you want her to come to your house? Maybe she can give you some pointers before you go into surgery. And something in me just said to say yes. I didn't know what Feng Shui was. I didn't know how much it was going to cost. It ended up being expensive, but I mean, best money I've ever spent in my life. um, you know, and I just said yes. And so she came to my house, and as she's walking around and telling me what I need to do, especially in my bedroom, because that's where I was going to be spending the majority of my time recuperating, um, she looked at me and she said, you're going to be doing this. And I remember so clearly what I said to her. And I am like, TikTok lady, you're expensive. Just tell me what I need to do to get ready for surgery. I have no interest in doing this whatsoever. So, I mean, tunnel vision as we all get, right? I mean, I'm like, I'm already pissed that this is happening to me, all the things.
Yeah.
So I did what she said. When we do a consultation, and she ended up being my teacher. So when we do a consultation, we look at the entire house and the surroundings and the outside and the inside, all of it. But all I had uh, bandwidth for was my bedroom at that point in time. So I got our bedroom in really great shape, had a seamless recovery. As I felt better and I was taking time off from my work, I started working on the other rooms with my husband. And he noticed such a shift that he's like, yeah, let's keep going. By the time we finished our whole house, he's like, you need to do this. And I'm like, oh my God, I need to do this. Because, any of us, if you've been doing something for long enough, you should be pretty good at it, right? So I can come in and make a room beautiful.
Mm.
But the difference was now I was coming into a room and making it energetically aligned as well as beautiful. And it just was such a difference. It was such a different vibe. It was such a different feeling. It felt so much more purposeful to me too, because I was kind of burnt out in the interior design and the clients that I was attracting. And, that's a whole nother thing.
Mm.
But I reached back out to her. I said, hey, remember me from like 6 months ago? And she said yes. I asked if I could study under her. She had a certification program. So I kept my design business closed for over a year until I got completely certified in Feng Shui as well. And now I incorporate that and biophilic design and my interior design all together when I work with clients. So that was a big pivot point for me.
Wow. Sorry, but I love hearing stories like this.
Oh, I know.
I mean, like, this is like what breeds every success story, but
Mhm.
what do I say? Your trauma is your superpower. But
Sure.
my oldest sister, she's super spiritual. She is like, she could be my mom. Like she's significantly older than me. And she always used to tell me growing up, she always used to say, Jordana, if you're going down the wrong road, you'll scrape your knee. And then if you get up and you keep going down the wrong road, you're going to break your foot. And then like soon it's going to have to be amputated. It's just like, you listen. And oftentimes it does kind of take that like full stop to be able to shift you into the thing that you're meant to be. So I just thank you for sharing that with me and my audience.
Sure.
Beautiful story. Okay. So you talked about, going into the room, making it energetically sound versus like just beautiful. What types of effects can that have on a person, a room? Like, why is this important? Why should people listen to this?
The really big reason why it's important is because our homes reflect us and we reflect our homes.
Mm.
We're inextricably linked. And it doesn't matter if you live in just a room, in an apartment, in a mansion, anything in between. You spend so much of your life in this space that if it's not energetically helping you, it's probably energetically hindering you. I won't say hurting because I don't believe in like good and bad feng shui, but it can either be helping you move forward towards the life you want to create, or it can be setting up all sorts of obstacles for you where you always feel like, I listen very closely to the words that my clients use when I do consultations. And when I hear words like I feel stuck, I'm running into a wall. I feel like I can't get ahead. I know what to look for in the house because it will be reflected in the house. And the other thing that's really interesting after doing this for quite some time now is I can walk into a home and I know what the house is telling me, and the house is talking to me, right? And I sit down at the beginning of a consultation and I'll ask a person, what's going on? Why did you call me? What is it that if you could wiggle your nose and say, these are the three things that I'd like to have happen in my life or manifest for myself in the next whatever X amount of time is, what would they be? Like, what are you looking to accomplish and why are you calling me? And I already can see what's happening. And it's always interesting to see if they're going to share with me right off the bat. And sometimes I have to prod them a little bit and say, like, well, based on what I'm seeing, this is what I think. And they'll be like, oh, no, that's fine. And then we'll start walking the house. And 20 minutes later, this just happened with a consultation probably 3 weeks ago. She's like, everything you said at the beginning. I'm like, yeah. She goes, yeah, it's happening. I just didn't want to tell you. And I'm like, but why? Like, that's why you have me here.
Yeah.
So I always encourage my clients, the more honest you are with me about what's really going on, the more beneficial I can be in helping find solutions for it. Right. So I can see what's going on in your home. Your home's going to talk to me, and your home can tell us a lot of things, easy ones. Here's a super easy one. We were in New Orleans in May, I want to say. We went to a party and I was not brought there as a consultant. So I'm not, I'm there as a guest. So I also have to be careful, right? And not overstep because we get very excited and we want to share everything with everyone,
Of
and not
course.
everyone wants to hear what we have to say.
Totally.
So
Yes.
we have to be careful. I was talking to the owners of the home and we were getting food from the dining room, and the light fixture above the dining room, the chandelier, 7 of the 8 light bulbs were burned out. No joke. And I mean, they're having a party like that. First of all, my little type A Virgo personality could never even
Go
handle that.
too.
When is your birthday?
I'm the 20th.
Okay, so we're just a couple days apart. I'm 14.
Oh,
Yeah.
amazing. I
So,
think you
I
said
just,
September. I was like, she's a Virgo.
yes. So
It's
can't not deal with that. Like,
yeah.
if I know that a light bulb's going to be burned in 2 weeks, I'm changing it, but they were telling me how exhausted they were. And they actually use the words burned out. We're fried, burnt out. And I said, may I suggest something? And they just looked at me and I go, change the light bulbs above me. And they're like, but we're so tired, we don't have time. I go, if you make the time to change them, you're not going to be so tired. Like, your house is burnt out. The lights are burnt out. Therefore, you are feeling burnt out.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's literally that simple. And a lot of people come to me for health, for wealth, for relationships, and I can see all of that in your house.
So,
So,
how did you feel when I opened up this conversation? I said we had a flood in the basement.
so it's I stayed quiet because you didn't ask me. You kind of brushed it aside.
Yep.
So water in feng shui can equal emotions that are like leaking out. It can also, very interestingly, it's linked to financial leaks. So if that resonates at all for you, if there's financial issues happening, check all the house for plumbing and for leaks. And when you get down to the basement, that is more of the subconscious. The
Mhm.
main floors are your current issues, and your attic would represent like your mind and busyness, like in your mind, or leaks in your mind, or whatever that, but that's kind of the way the house is broken up. So it could be that there's some financial issues. You'll have to tell me if any of this resonates or not. I
Oh,
don't
I'll
know.
tell you. Yeah, no, you're bang on. I'm going through a divorce. There's so much financial stuff going on there. Like I
Yeah.
was the sole provider forever and like just couldn't do it anymore. And so like I constantly, like literally, I literally would say the words, I feel like there's a leak. Like the money just leaks out.
Yep.
So interesting because it's flood like 3 times this summer and we
Yeah.
probably have to move. Like,
Yeah.
so.
And that's it. I mean, yeah, your energy is being leaked, your finances are being leaked, your emotions, and
Totally.
water is very
Oh,
deep emotions. And of course,
yeah.
if you're going through a divorce, you're going to have very deep emotions. So yeah,
Hmm.
there you see what I mean? Like, and I
Dang.
didn't even see your house.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, that was so awesome. Okay, super cool. Also, do you like do a Zoom consults or
Oh yeah,
you
I do
okay,
consultations all
amazing.
over the world. Yes, I do. Actually, one of my girls, and I'm very respectful of everyone's privacy, but
Of course.
but one of my sweet little clients just played in the Olympics and in the US Open. And yeah, I'm very fortunate. I get to do consults all over the world. I mean, Zoom has just opened up a whole new thing for us. And at the beginning, honestly, at the beginning, I was like, there's no way. I'm going to
Same.
have to be in this space to feel the energy, right? But look at what we just did. Look at our exchange. I mean, you don't need to. And the way I do them on Zoom is I actually do them on FaceTime because then you can walk your phone around and it's just like I'm standing right next to you and you'll walk me through your house. We'll sit down, we'll chat, you'll walk me through your house and then we'll go over everything, that I recommend. So it's super simple. And yeah, I can feel the energy through the computer, which I didn't know if I was going to be able to or not. I'm glad I can. And just by talking to people, because what you're saying represents what's going on in your life, and what's the way I was trained, what's closest to you has the most impact, right? So the food that you put in your mouth, which I know you're very big on nutrition, all of that as well. So what you're putting in your mouth obviously affects what you're putting on your body. So I talk a lot about products, what are you putting on your body? Make sure they're non-toxic, paraben free, all that stuff. The clothes you're wearing, the bed you're sleeping on, and then your house, and then your environment, your office. So all of that plays a huge role in how we feel and our health and our overall outlook on life every day.
Amazing. Okay. I want to talk about I wasn't even going to go in this direction, but I do want to talk about the health and the feng shui connection.
Sure.
But before we go into that, obviously, and this is something that I mentioned I've been cultivating. Like I know it, I'm not going to even call it psychic. It's like I listen to people and I just like hear or see something, and I just know what it is. For example, I ran this course. I had a client last night or the night before. And she was like, "Oh, I really want to travel." And I literally saw her in an African safari. And I was like, have you ever done an African safari? And she was like, "I literally just bought my tickets." And I was like, bam, like just like things like that. And I don't know how to explain like how that happens, why that happens, but obviously you're a very intuitive person as well. So do you have any like feedback that maybe we could share with the audience for how to tap more into your intuition so that we don't have to have like 3 surgeries and like be bedridden before we get the message?
Right. Well, first of all, you're claircognizant. I don't know if you know that or not, but that is what that is called, right? Some people call it, depending if religion gets mixed up in all this, some people call it the gift of prophecy, but really you're claircognizant. You're able to know things just because you know things, and I have the same gift.
Mm,
So I am highly claircognizant. I'm highly clairaudient.
yeah.
So I get messages
Yeah.
all the time. Yeah, right here. I mean, it
Yeah.
just boom comes
Yeah.
in. And I'm also much less so now than when I was younger, but I'm also clairvoyant. So I see people who've passed. And
Wow.
I can also see, so my clairvoyance comes less now in seeing people who have passed and more now in talking to the house and seeing the house and having the house show me what's going on, because that's kind of the way I've decided that I want to use my gifts.
Mm,
So first and foremost, I would say all of us have gifts. Every single person I think alive on this planet at this time has a gift. Not all of us will choose to use them. There is free will, which I think is a beautiful thing, I've known people whose gifts have come in dark, and so they've said no, thank you. I would have too if my gifts came in dark. My gifts came in light, and I said okay. And I also said, I will always only work in the light. I will not accept anything that's in the darkness, you know? So let's just say we've gotten to point 8. You're starting to notice that things are happening. You're starting to feel like you know stuff, you hear stuff, you see stuff, whatever the case may, you smell stuff. You know, that's a big one for people too. They can smell cigars of people that have passed it, or the pipes, so you know, all that kind of perfumes, all the big ones. You get to decide whether or not you want to accept them. If you decide to accept them, then it's up to you to learn to work with them and hopefully be of service and do good things with them and learn how to protect yourself. I think that's a big one too. I think when we all are first getting our gifts, it's very overwhelming. And that does go back to kind of what I wrote my book about, because I was very honest and wrote it in real time as things were happening. Even when I got to the editing point, you know, my editor's like, well, what about this? I'm like, well, no, I can't say it that way, because at that time, that is how things were happening. You know, I don't want to come from a healed place. I want people to see what it was like to go through it, because it's the book I wish I would have had when I was first going through it, when there was no one else to talk to and you don't know if you're going bananas or, you know, what's going on in your life as all this stuff's starting to happen to you, right? Um, so you need to learn how to protect yourself. I'd say work with teachers, find good teachers that can help you with your gifts and help you feel comfortable with your gifts. At the very beginning for me, even though I would clearly hear or see something, I was like, no, I need to know it 3 different times before I believe that this is really happening, right? You need that validation.
Yeah.
So I would say learn to trust. Learn to trust your gut. We all have it for a reason. And for me, working with teachers really, 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 really helped me. And I did put the name of all the teachers I worked with in the back of my book so that other people could, with their permission, of course, but so that other people could utilize the resources if they felt so called, you know, once they read it and resonated with any of the teachers, because I think they were amazing ones. Yeah, and just enjoy it. Like, I enjoy it so much now. I look forward to getting up every day and I'm like, oh, what's going to happen today? You know, it's like, because I know something weird always will, and it's so much fun. But that's because I've worked with it. I've trusted it. You know, it's very overwhelming at the beginning. I'm sure you would agree with that too.
Yeah, for sure. I think I love, because I was going to ask you, even though I have a clear understanding as well, but I was going to ask you, you know, like, does everybody have this gift? Because, you know, I work with a lot of people and they're like, how do you know that? And I'm like, you could know this too. You just like, you have to be able to tap in and trust it and all of the things. And working with my mentors was the only way that I got here. So I resonated with everything that you said. One thing I would like to ask about is, like, how would you suggest someone protect themselves?
The way I was taught, I'll share how I was taught because that's the only way that I know. So one of the first teachers that I worked with, have you ever been to Miraval, or do you know what Miraval is out in Tucson, Arizona? It is a beautiful resort, and you can go there and just do spa stuff if you want to. But Miraval in Arizona has these incredible healers. And they're the ones who first explained to me, because at the beginning, I didn't even have this terminology. I didn't know what claircognizant was. I didn't know what any of it was. You know, I'm just like, I don't know. I hear voices and I see dead people. What am I supposed to do with this information? You know, besides go to therapy somewhere, you know?
Yeah.
But they helped me understand. And that was one of the very first things they said to me is, so let us teach you how to protect yourself, because when you are first opening up, you know, the other side, your guides, your descended ancestors, you know, in my case, both my husbands and my parents are deceased and they're around us all the time. And it's just a blast now. But at the beginning, it was kind of like, whoa, you know, the other side gets very excited if they can suddenly start communicating with you and they realize that you understand that they're communicating with you. And then it's like chaos, because they don't have office hours. They don't have to get up and go to work. You know, they don't need to sleep. They just want to have fun all the time.
Yeah.
And I was super overwhelmed and I was not sleeping. It was a flippin' party in my room all night. And I'm like, this can't go on. You know, this just can't go on. So the way that I was taught is to set boundaries and just say, here's the deal, guys, you know, and I usually do it like after meditation. I meditate every day. I do have a daily meditation practice. Sometimes it's 5 minutes, sometimes it's an hour. It's whatever time I have in the morning. But I am grateful for whatever the day will bring and for whatever happened the day before. And then I always say, I'm here to be of service to my clients and to whoever else I'm meant to be of service to today. And I ask to be protected from anything and everything I am not able to protect myself from. And I ask that everything and anything that comes to me be only and always of the light. And that's part of my prayer in the morning and at night. And at night, I say, I call back all my energy to my body, and I release anything that isn't mine to carry from the day. Because, I mean, obviously our energy mixes beautifully, but you've been on Zoom and on calls and on, everybody that's working on Zoom, you're still taking in all those people's energy at the end of the day, and you need to be able to let it go and not carry it around with you. So those are some ways that I learned.
That's perfect. No, and I love that it's tactical. Like anybody who's listening can literally just like rewind and write that
Yeah.
down. I think it includes all the components that like I also would that like everything just really resonated. This morning I was doing a meditation and tapping because I had a one-on-one client. So I usually try and like tap into their energy a little bit, see what's going on. So I have a direction of where we're going. And for the whole day until I met with her, I had the worst anxiety. And I was like, what is this about? Like, I was just
Yeah.
walking around being like, I can't, like, I was like, I need like an Ativan or something. And I've never
Yeah.
gone down that route. And that was one of the first times, it's definitely not the first, but one of the first times that I actually physically took on like an emotion. I didn't even have to talk to her. Like, I just literally thought about her and like physically carried it. And so being able to release that and then calling back my own energy is and if a lot of my listeners are practitioners like in the health holistic world, I think that it's just so important, especially like we've all been on a call where you're just so drained at the end of the call and you're like, oh my God, like this took everything out of me. And like we can just simply call our energy back, right? It doesn't always have to be put, because I do think there's like spiritual empathetic fatigue that goes on in this role.
100%. And we are all empaths. I think most of us that have these gifts are also quite empathic. So we just are like little sponges and we're taking in everything that's around us, and setting up those boundaries and the office hours and asking for protection helps us, because if we're so depleted, then we end up sick, then we end up in surgery, then we end up, with all the stuff that I had done, because I just had no boundaries and I didn't even know that this was happening. So it is super important for us, first and foremost, to protect ourselves before we can turn around and help others.
Totally.
Yeah, yeah.
If we have somebody who's listening who's like, I don't know if I have gifts, I don't know, like is there a way that they can, ask to receive it? Or like, how would you suggest somebody who's like interested, but doesn't, receive anything or isn't aware of it yet?
So I'll share my experience. Once I feng shuied the house, our house, and the energy just shifted completely in our house and aligned, and it was just so much lighter and brighter. And my husband's and my relationship was better. We've been married, it'll be 35 years next year. So it was like 27-ish or give or take at the time. But suddenly I was interested in stuff that I'd never been interested before. I was interested in meditation. I was interested in trying different modalities that had just never even occurred to me before. I was like, whatever. And I started paying attention to those nudges. So I would say if you're suddenly getting nudges, pay attention to what they are and see how they come about. So I decided I was going to learn to meditate. And one of my first meditations, I truly asked from the bottom of my heart. So I'm 50, I'm recovering from surgery, I'm pivoting away from just design, I'm thinking about doing this feng shui thing. We're empty nesters. Our sons graduated from college and moved to Chicago. Like I really was at a lot of turning points in my life, right? Which way am I going? And I just asked during the meditation, what is my purpose? Like, what is my purpose here on this planet at this time? And that's when I got told you're going to write a book. And I went, what? And, just like I told the feng shui practitioner, I go, yeah, no, that doesn't work for me. I have no interest in doing this. What else do you have for me? It's like, and for the next 5 days, I asked the question, And for the next 5 days, I got the same answer. And finally, I caved and I'm like, yeah, fine, whatever. What do you want me to write a book about? Who cares what a privileged white middle-aged woman has to say? Like, you know, and I got told just to start writing down what was happening to me. I'm
Mm.
like, okay. So I would say if you're interested, start paying attention to signs like that. Like what's calling to your attention? I'd never been interested in meditation. I'd never listened to those little words in my ear. I just ignored it, right? And start paying attention to those things. Keep a journal. It really, really helped me, especially at the beginning. I would date and keep a journal. I'd date like, especially if I was doing a feng shui adjustment, I'd write it down what I did, why I did it, because it's all about intention, right? And then what date I did it. And then I'd wait to see how things shifted. But it helped me have such a beautiful chronological journey, to kind of see when things happened and why they happened and how they happened. And I would write down, yeah, I got told to go to Sedona. I don't even know what Sedona is. 10 days later, I owned a home there. I
Wow.
mean, that's just the way it works for me now. And
Yeah.
on the flip side, as soon as the book was done edited, because I wrote the majority of the book there, and as soon as all the editing was done, I got told to sell it. And my husband's just like the poor guy. He's like whiplash. He's like, what?
Along for the ride at this point.
Yeah. We've been together since I was 18. So he's just like, well, you were like one person from 18 to 15. You're like this whole, I'm like, hey, being married to a whole new person. Isn't this exciting? It's fun. It's strange,
I
Get
love
yourself some strange now because
that.
I'm just another
Keep it
being.
interesting. This is why you've been
Yeah,
doing it for so long. Is to just keep it interesting.
exactly,
Never bored.
exactly. But, by listening, here's what happened. We were able to be in Sedona, in Arizona, which is beautiful, and you could be outside during all of COVID, all
Mm.
of it.
Mm.
And then when we moved back, we doubled our money in 3 years of owning that house. They bought everything in the house. They said, just take your clothes and go. And most of my houses sell with pretty much everything in them. But they said, just take your stuff and go. And it happened 10 days to buy it, 10 days to get out, and, doubled our money. So when you are open to following what spirit, source, God, whatever the word is for you, your guides, whatever resonates with you, when you do listen and when you do take the aligned action that they're asking you to take, and granted, it's a pretty major step that I was able to just go buy another house in Sedona. It was our second home. Not everyone can do that. I get that.
Mm.
But it was a big leap for us, and they rewarded us by doubling our money in 3 years and telling us to get the hell out. And I didn't have to move all the stuff back to Tampa, because it all sold. It was just our clothes. So, that's the way my life is now. There's always something like that. I'd never wanted to go to Hawaii. It just is not a thing for me. We live right by the beach here. It's just, why am I going to travel 13 hours to go to Hawaii? All of a sudden, the nudge started happening a couple months ago. I am now going for a Lemurian concert on 12/12/24 to Maui.
I can't wait to hear why you're going.
Because of this Lemurian concert that this man is putting together. So I've had many, many, many past lives, and I've done a lot of past life regressions, and I've worked with a lot of healers in that department. And one of my past lives was in Lemuria. And so one of the beliefs is that Hawaii and that vicinity was what was originally Lemuria, which then became Atlantis, which then became, what we know in this world now. So I am going for this amazing concert that's going to take place in the crater of a volcano or something crazy. I don't even know what, on 12/12.
Wow. Okay. This is incredible. Hi, babes. I am so excited to talk to you about my signature program, The Mindful Method. This is the exact same method that I have been using with hundreds of successful clients to help you heal your relationship to food, to increase confidence, and to lose weight without dieting or killing yourself at the gym. If you're sick of not feeling like your best self, if you're sick of promising yourself that you'll start again on Monday, if you're sick of going on restrictive diets only to gain back the weight, I can tell you right now that if you gained it back, it did not work. You know what's healthy and what's not. You do.
you just continue to choose the unhealthy option anyways. And a meal plan will not solve this issue. There is no amount of restriction or discipline or willpower that is going to stop you from self-sabotaging. The body follows the mind. Imagine a life where you don't have to think about what you can or can't eat. Imagine a life where you feel confident in all of your clothes, where every day in every way your body rebalances and you lose all of the weight so you find the truest, healthiest version of yourself. Imagine never having to start again on Monday. This is what happens when you focus on transforming the brain so weight loss is effortless. The body follows the mind, and it's time you actually get to the root cause of your issue. If you are ready to transform and find the truest, healthiest version of you without letting go of your favorite foods, I invite you to fill out the application in my bio. And if you're a good fit, we'll be in touch soon. Back to regular programming.
I have like, obviously the health related stuff is so big. I'm going to actually use you because there's a lot of people listening also too. We talk a lot about manifestation and money and things. So do you have any tips in the home? I know you have to like be in the home and here, but are there like some general things that we can do in the home to bring in more money? Also, I'm helping myself right now.
Yes, no, I get that. Okay, so I am trained, let's go Feng Shui 101 here. I am trained in BTB Feng Shui, and which is the more westernized approach of Feng Shui, because the houses in the Western world are just built differently than in the Asian culture a lot of times. And Westerners do not want to put their swimming pool in the front of the house where water is considered more auspicious. You know, everybody has their pools in the backyard, right? So I was trained in BTB, which is a more westernized approach. We work with this. This is called a Bagua map. And if you put the link to my website in the show notes, people can download their own free Bagua map and they can just have it to work off of. So the Bagua map divides your house into, like, you can see there's 9 different areas. It's almost like a tic-tac-toe in case people are just listening and not visually seeing what we're talking about. There's 9 areas of your life. So starting at your front door, usually, which is like the center bottom, you would have career. And then I actually am this is my office. I am in the helpful people and travel area of our home. So of course, I'm always manifesting travel, which is fabulous because that's what I love. There's children and creativity, love and relationships. And this can include all relationships, not just intimate ones. Fame and reputation, how you are seen by the outside world. So this is beyond just like, I want to be famous, unless that's your jam. That's fine too. But just how you're seen, especially in business. So this is a very important one because you can't, your career's not going to take off without being seen positively. And you're not going to make money without having a good career and helpful people. So you see, it all works together, even though it's broken up into 9 areas. So next to fame and reputation, top left, you'll have wealth. Below that, you'll have family and ancestors. Below that, on the, what am I doing? Left-hand side of your front door, you'd have skills and knowledge. And then in the center of everything is health. Because as you know, if you don't have health, what's the point of the rest of this, right? You need your health in order to make all this stuff happen. So what I would encourage people to do is to start with their front door and their front entrance. Everyone can do this. Everybody that comes to me for wealth and prosperity wants to go look at, the back left-hand side of their house. Sure, fine, go do that. Go look at that. But energy enters your home through your front door, the way that energy and nutrients enter our body through our mouth. So it's the exact same thing. So all the energy going into your house is coming in through that front door. Now, people freak out. I live in an apartment building. That's fine. It goes in through the front door of your apartment building. I rent a room. That's fine. So look at the room that you rent and stand at the front door of the room. You can use the Bagua and you can overlay it on your house, on your desk, on your bed, on your nightstand, room by room. Our house in Sedona was not shaped like a square. It was shaped to take advantage of all the amazing views everywhere. So I had to use the Bagua room by room instead of the entire house. So I'd stand at the main entrance to every room and lay it out that way. So there's so many different ways to work with it. And, you know, if at some point you want to do just a class on that, that's fine. We can do that. I do that all the time. And I love doing that because people get a lot out of it. But starting at your front door, what you want to see is it's clean, it's in working order. People tell me I'm stuck in my career, right? And if you're stuck in your career, chances are you're not getting ahead, which means you're not making the money that you want to be making. So I cannot tell you how many times I go to that front door and the hardware sticks. Sometimes it's that simple. So you have to check the hardware that it's working properly, that it's not rusted and falling apart, that front door is in pristine condition, painted, stained, whatever the case may be, to the extent that you can be responsible for it, you know, because if it's out of your hands, it's out of your hands, right? So you work on the inside of the house and just work on what you can have control over. But if you have access to your front door, then I want to see a doormat that aligns with about the size of your front door. If you get one that's too big, you know, everybody loves now how you're layering the rugs with the other rug right by the front door. That's great. I have that too. But make sure that the mat that's closest to your front door, the top layer, is not too huge for your doors. Otherwise, you'll have opportunities that will overwhelm you, and therefore you'll kind of get into like, you know, decision paralysis, and it'll be too much for you and you won't make any decisions. So you want to have it aligned with your front door. I prefer it to be black because, as you can see with the Bagua map, there's a color that represents each gua. There's also a shape that represents each gua and an element that represents each gua. So there's so many ways to work with it, which is why I loved it, because through design, I can really play, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't mean I want your house to look like a circus tent like this. Like I don't want a purple back room and a black front room. Like that's not what I'm looking for here. I want a cohesive palette, but we can bring in elements into each room that represent the gua that the room is in, and that reinforces it. So I am in helpful people, for example, and travels. The color is gray. So you can see behind me, my shelves are gray, you know, and it's a metal element. So I have, and the shape for metal is round. That's just the way it is. You know, the shape for Earth is square. People are like, what? I'm like, just go with it. That's just the way it is. It's 6,000 years old. I didn't make it up, you know? But so I have a round chandelier and it has metal and raffia on it. So I'm calling it in. There's so many different ways through design that you can work with things to make it beautiful aesthetically, because it has to be for me. But also I'm calling in that energy. So the black doormat for the front would be great. I don't care what it says on it. Like if you want some fun saying, I don't really like when it tells people to like F off, or, you know, I'm like, well, what are you, that's not welcoming. You know, you're basically telling the energy to turn around and leave.
Totally.
I don't like them with your name on them or your monogrammed initials, because then people are stepping on your name.
Yeah.
So, you know, there are little things like that that anyone can do, right? So I don't have to see your house to do that. I like fresh plants by your front door if it's possible, based on the seasons, of course, and where you live. But plants attract energy, or flowers. I love having that by the front door. Burnt out light bulbs overhead, make sure those bulbs are checked.
I need to move. Yeah. Like it's our house is too far gone.
Like it's not.
Everything's wrong.
And none of these are huge investments either. You know what I mean? A couple of $100 can fix all this. Even if you just start with one thing. I also tell people, they get very excited, you know, when I come over and do a consultation, they want to do everything at once. Well, that kind of throws the energy into a tizzy too. You know, when you're working with nutrition, it's like you change a couple of things and wait and see what happens. Change another couple of things and wait and see what happens. Because otherwise it just, the energy is like, I don't know what's going on here now. You know, it went from nothing's coming in to too much is coming in. So that's why I always tell people, start with the front door and get that energy moving through your house. If I see a pile of shoes behind the door, that drives me bananas. And if you can't open that door all the way, that also is blocking opportunities for your career.
Ooh.
So, you know, there are all sorts of simple things, and none of those are, I mean, moving the shoes and getting a basket for the shoes, and
easy.
those are free, you know? I mean, wiping down your front door, cleaning it up, all those things. So to me, that's always step number one. If you want to go into money specifically, we can look at the back left-hand corner of your home.
Okay.
So, or your space or your office or your desk, whatever it may be for you. And that is purple. So you can put in just a purple orchid or an amethyst and call it a day. Because again, you're setting the intention as to why you're putting it there. It is a wood element, and wood is represented by live plants. So you can have just a live plant and that's it, and the shape is a rectangle. So think of a tree, right? So it's a vertical rectangle, a tree, right? Deep roots and lots of branches growing out. So the wood element is all about growth and expansion, which is of course what we want to call in when we're calling in prosperity. But I was doing an interview where we were talking specifically about wealth, and I talked about the stove. And people are like, well, what if my stove's not back there? It doesn't matter where your stove is. Your stove is a prosperity magnet for your home.
Is it?
So what you can do with your stove is make sure all the burners are working.
Okay.
And the oven is working, because the oven and stove, I use them as a combo. I know a lot of us have two separate things, right? Even I have wall ovens and just a cooktop. But make sure all the burners are working and make sure it's clean. And also make sure you're rotating the use of all the burners. A lot of us have like the favorite ones.
I only use one ever.
Right. So you need to start rotating them. And here's something you can do at the beginning of every, no, I like this with new moon, not full moon. New moons call in manifesting, and then the full moons you're releasing what doesn't work. So we're about to have a full moon, but for the new moons, and I do this every new moon just to keep myself on a cycle and so that I remember, I turn on all my burners for 1 minute after the stove is clean it all, make sure it's shiny and pretty, turn on all the burners, wait 1 minute and turn them on high, everything.
Okay.
And you just are doing that with the intention of calling in prosperity to your home, and then turn them off and tell me if you don't feel a huge difference in the energy of the space. It's wild. When I learned that one, I was like, no way. And it is incredible, the difference that you feel almost immediately. So again, another easy one that doesn't cost you anything except a little elbow grease, right? Make sure that stove and oven is clean, rotate your burners, make sure they're all working, and turn them all on high once a month, every full moon, or the first day. If you don't follow the moon cycle, first of every month, whatever day, however it works for you, just get on a cycle of doing that and watch and see what starts happening. It's really wild.
Wow. I'm so excited for this. Also, you're my favorite type of Virgo. Like, you're literally perfect for this role because you're like, make sure it's clean.
Always.
Wow. Okay. Seriously blowing my mind. Thank you. This is not at all where I thought this conversation would go. And I'm so happy we got here. Okay. Let's dive into a little bit of the health stuff. So let's talk about, Feng Shui for health, and then just anything else that comes up. We'll just riff on it.
And again, think about it. It all works together, right? So your stove is all about cooking nutritious food for you and your family. So you want to do that. You want to bring in nutritious food and do, the least amount of takeout, I would say, as possible, because we all know how that affects our health. But the health is located right in the center of your home. So try and locate wherever that is for you in your space and see what's going on there. Right? The color for that area is yellow. So at the very least, if there's nothing else you can do, and if you have some sort of tabletop there, get some yellow flowers and put them there. I try and do that. My husband just had a knee replacement 2 weeks ago. So I have been playing nurse around the clock for 2 weeks. Not fun, but he's great, but it's a lot. So I've had yellow flowers, near the center of our home. I've also made sure that I've got really nutritious food, that area is really clean. At the end of every night, I'll kind of vacuum the area that he's hanging out in and just kind of reset for every day, so that energy of recovery, and he wasn't sick, right? Because it's not an illness, but just the recovery and surgery and all that, that energy's gone. I will use Palo Santo a lot, and sage, whatever works, or spray, whatever works for you, to kind of clear that energy. And I also do something that's called a salt burn. And people can find this because it'll be a little hard to do here, but people can go to my Instagram and just, look up. I have several reels on salt burns, but basically it's like doing smudging on steroids with no smell. Because some people either don't like the smell of Palo Santo or smudging, or they can't do it, So you can do a salt burn and you can just kind of clear all that energy. But basically for health, it's about what makes you happy in that space. It's it's an earth element. So it's about having stability. We know that we're earth elements already. So we want that solid foundation. We want that stability. The square is what represents that. So if you can't put fresh flowers, can you find a square tray? Can you find something that's square that you're going to put in that earth area of your home to represent that very intentionally and to ask for health? But doing a lot of the stuff in the other areas, decluttering is a huge one for health.
Yeah.
Decluttering your home and your space, your closet.
Mm-hmm.
This is not a results guaranteed endorsement, but for the majority of people who we've done some really deep decluttering of their closet, because of course what's closest to you affects you the most, they end up losing a couple of pounds, myself included. Like when it's a real hardcore,
Yeah.
hardcore, like I'm
Yep.
really getting rid of the stuff that's no longer aligning with me. And that tends to help people's health too. Pay attention to your bed and what you're sleeping on. A lot of the mattresses that people love, one of the big brands in particular, is made with a barrel of crude oil. So
What?
just look that up.
What?
Mm-hmm.
Mean?
So that's what we're sleeping on. And it's one of the big ones that everybody loves, and they get automated. And, if I have people tell me, again, going back to health, but it relates to sleep, I'm not sleeping well. Well, let me go see what's going on. I'm wired. Okay, well, let's go look at your bedroom. Oh, I have the automatic bed that goes up and down. That's wired. I have the mattress with coils that's wired. I have 10,000 things plugged into my nightstand, and, my spouse or partner or whatever does too. So, well, yes, you are literally wired.
Literally.
You're literally wired. So my suggestion is to unplug as much as humanly possible. The only thing we have plugged into the wall that our bed is on is our lamps. That's it. The phones don't go in the bedroom. I mean, I'm pretty hardcore on that stuff. I do have a TV in the bedroom because I am a person that falls asleep to the TV. And a lot of Feng Shui practitioners will say, that's a huge no-no. I kind of feel like it helps me, but it's not on the wall opposite my bed. It's to the side, so that I'm not getting that reflection from the TV all night, because that reflection can work as a mirror. And for those of us that are highly sensitive, mirrors can work as portals and invite people into our space at night that don't let us rest because they want to chat.
So this is my other question. This is going to sound extremely vain, but bear with me.
Oh, yeah.
If you follow astrology, I'm a Virgo, but my Leo's and my Chiron's in Leo, my Leo's in Chiron. So like all my wounded healers all like, look at me, spotlight that. But I love having I love sitting on my bed and seeing myself. And everyone who talks to me in the spiritual world is like, do not have a mirror like in front of your bed. But there's something about being able to see my reflection when I'm in bed that I like. And I just like don't know how to get away from that.
So here's what I would say. I've had several clients like that. And I first walk in and I look at it. And so all I say is, how do you sleep? And if you tell me that you sleep great and you have no problem sleeping, then it's not an issue. If you tell me I'm not sleeping well, then it's probably an issue. So the one client had a mirror. It was gargantuan. And I just looked at her, and she is a spiritual teacher too. And I go, so how do you feel about the mirror here? She goes, oh, my husband and I love to watch ourselves in it. I'm like, all right, then. I'm like, how do you both
Part of the
sleep? And they're
reason,
like,
yeah.
we sleep great. I'm like, all right, then it's not an issue, you know? So that's the difference between like working with a consultant and reading a book, because the
Yeah.
book will say, put it away. You're like, you can't have it. I will say, is it a problem?
Mhm.
If it's not a problem, it's not a problem. If
Yeah.
you're not sleeping,
Mhm.
then it's probably the culprit. So a couple things you can do. You can try to cover it temporarily at night and see if you sleep better.
Mhm.
And if you are sleeping better, is it worth it? You know what I mean? Like, are you
I
sleeping
know. Yeah.
better to the point where you're like, yeah, I'd rather get my sleep than look at
Oh
myself
my
in the
God.
mirror? You know what I mean? Well, but it's an individual thing. I'm not
Totally.
judging good or
No,
bad. I'm just
totally. I'm
saying,
judging you. Yeah.
how does, if that brings you joy or happiness or whatever, and you're sleeping great, that's not a problem, you
Mhm.
know? When
Mhm.
I first started, and again, I didn't know. I was 16 the first time that I remember having a visitation and somebody came to my room. Now looking back, I think about my little kid's bedroom that I was in at the time. I had a dresser, like a little makeup dresser with a mirror that faced my bed. And then my two closet doors to the left of me had mirrors on them too. So I had three mirrors going in my bedroom. Well, no, duh. People were coming and going at all hours of the night in my room. Now we don't, I cannot have a mirror in the bedroom. And if I go stay at a hotel or something, I cover it just
Mhm.
to be able to sleep. And the TV sometimes, for me, because I put it on the side and I can't see it reflected in the bed and it does not reflect the bed, it's not an issue for me. Somebody more sensitive than I, maybe that's an issue for them too. So it all depends on, are you getting the rest that you need, and are you feeling rejuvenated in the morning? And, how is your health overall? Like, if you're not in good shape and you're not in good health, I'd say, sorry, I don't care. You have to take that mirror out. But
Mhm.
if you're in good health and you sleep well,
Yeah.
it's fine.
I'll have to reassess.
You'll have to
Really, I have
ponder.
to think about this one
Try
now.
it try it for a couple of nights just as
Yeah.
an experiment and
Yeah.
see how you feel,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, it's interesting because my house,
Hmm.
because I work, one of my mentors is very spiritual. So she was like, no mirror in front of the bed. So it's off to the side. Fine. But I'm in the condo because we do nesting. I don't know if it's a
Hmm.
divorce thing, right now. And the mirror is in front of the bed. And I'm like, I love this, but like, I can't honestly say that I sleep good here. Like but maybe it's because I'm in a, not really my home or whatever, but maybe it's because the mirror is in front of my bed. So I'll take that one. My entire network, like, I mean, really is about like releasing the weight. Like that was my breeding ground. Like that's where I
Hmm.
started. You gave a great example about cleaning out the closet. Is there anything else that we can do from a feng shui perspective that directly relates to our weight?
I'd say, I mean, it all comes down to, what you're eating and what you're putting in your body. And I truly do feel that decluttering your home is going to affect your weight,
Mhm.
100%, you
Mhm.
know, because as you get rid of things that are physically weighing you down, you will stop weighing yourself down.
Mhm.
I mean, there's no diet plan that's
Yeah.
feng
I'm
shui,
like,
you
is
know
there
what
a
I mean?
crystal we can put?
Yeah, not that I'm aware of. But I would say focusing on your kitchen and your stove and just good nutritious foods and things that, make you feel good. Uh, to me, that's what's helped me stay at my weight and maintain my weight. And this is not feng shui, but I've just chosen, I don't do that well with alcohol anymore. I also find that the more spiritually developed I am, the less tolerance I have for alcohol, which doesn't mean you won't see me with a drink here and there. I don't need, the DMs coming in. It's like, you need a picture with a drink. It's like, I will, not saying I don't drink. I'm saying I drink way, like, one drink affects me the way three drinks used to.
Yeah.
And so I just drink very, very little to nothing, or the fake mocktails, or, something like that. I don't do a lot of sugar, if very little, no gluten, no dairy. And
Mhm.
I find that most people who are spiritual seem to have digestive issues. I don't know if you found that or not,
Of
but
course.
there's a big connection between all the gut stuff and being highly, highly spiritual. So we're being told already, like, pay attention to what you're putting in your body because, you know, you need your body performing at its highest in order to be able to accept all these downloads and messages and intuition and guidance that we're getting.
And I also find like I have a one-on-one client who is highly, highly, highly intuitive, like we'll call her psychic. And she was a lawyer and she's actually just completely shifting into like, no, I'm just done with that. And like this is like changing her life just like you did. And she struggles from digestive issues. And I actually find that a lot of that, I don't know if it's like, it's these information that's like, we don't know how to digest it properly. Like the more she taps into her spirituality,
Yep.
If we don't know how to like protect ourselves, if we don't know how to like hold the capacity for that, then the body starts to act out in that way. There was one instance where she had like crazy vertigo and I'm like, I'm doing all the, I'm giving her the supplements, I'm doing the things. And I was like, can you just like ask it to leave? Like, can you just like, and she did, and it was just gone. And so
I love that. I'm going to remember that next time I get a headache.
Like, because I was just like, you know, it's, if this is an energetic thing, then it's the same way that we can protect ourselves from like things we don't want. We can accept it or not. Like we can just say, hey, like, I'm not available for this. Like I have a boundary here.
Right.
Like you can't come into my space, into my body. And it worked. And it was just, I was like, well,
That's so cool.
That's
so cool.
Well, yeah.
The Bagua also works on body parts.
Oh,
there is a body part associated with each area of the Bagua map. Yes, there is. So if we're going into like knowledge and self-cultivation is your hands.
Okay.
Family is your feet. Think of stability. Wealth and prosperity is your hips and your knee joints, like from your knee joint to your hips. Fame and reputation is your, God, I hope I get this one right. Sometimes I forget the eyes. Love and relationships is all the major organs, like your heart and all your organs, the big ones. So I would say a lot of times when people have digestive problems too, I go look at the love and relationships area of their home, right? And something's usually off balance. Children and creativity is your mouth. Helpful people and travel is your head. If you get a lot of migraines, go look at the helpful people and travel area of your home. Your career is your ear. And then health is kind of anything I didn't cover, kind of like all the other ones included. So that's another way that I approach it. If I go to someone's home and I see, or they tell me, you know, if they're being honest with me that they're having a lot of migraines, for example, then I'm going to want to go to this area of the house and of their bedroom and see what's going on. Is there a lot of clutter there? Is there a lot of stuff that's not beneficial to them? You know, even under your bed, it's so important. I want nothing under the bed. Like I don't allow anything for my clients. And I get it. I work with people in New York apartments where they have to store stuff. And if you absolutely positively have to store something, it needs to be stuff that's almost like related to the bed or softness. So extra robes, extra bedding, extra blankets. I'm okay with that kind of stuff. I don't want to see running shoes, anything athletic, because that means go. You know, you're trying to rest, and that's saying go. I cannot tell you how many divorce papers I get pulled out from under the bed, and things from old lovers, and you know, I'm like, I had one client. I just adore her. I adore her. She's one of my faves ever. And it was early on in my career with Feng Shui. So I was already kind of like, I hope I do a good job, you know, I hope I do, you know, and her house was beautiful. She was a healer also. And I'm like, I don't get it. And she wanted to call in a new partner. And I'm like, I don't get it. I mean, we did everything in the bedroom, the matching nightstands, the matching lamps, you know, to call in balance because you don't want like a bed shoved against a wall. That means one partner doesn't have balance. You want the bed in the middle and the two, you know, the matching, all that stuff. So we did all that stuff, like all the 101. And I still wasn't feeling that it was right. And I go, what's under your bed? She goes, oh, just old stuff. And I'm like, no. What's under your bed? Let's pull it out. And she pulls it out. It's the divorce. She's sleeping on top of her divorce papers. And then the more she pulls out, she's like, oh, my high school boyfriend gave me this. An old lover gave me this and love letters from another one. I'm like, Well, no wonder that nobody's coming into your bed. It's full. Like, look at all the guys that are already here. Like, there's no room for anybody else to come in. We've got a full house that you're sleeping with. And
God.
she's like, oh my God. And like the light bulb just went off. So in that situation, she just said, what do I do with it? And I'm like, if you need to keep legal papers, that's fine, but let's go file them in your office, or let's go file them somewhere that's not under your bed where you're sleeping on this energy day in, day out. And the rest of the stuff, let it go.
Yeah.
Like,
Ooh.
do any of us need our high school boyfriend's yearbook, or like we just don't anymore. We can let these, if you really need to take a picture of it and keep it on your phone, but let the physical aspect of it just go to welcome in that new energy. I'll never forget, my feng shui teacher told me, if I'm trying to give you like $1 million, but you have to take it out of my hands and my hands are completely full of stuff, I can't take it, right? So there's no way to take in, and whatever that may be for you, a new boat, a trip, jewelry, whatever it is that you are wanting to manifest that you would love to
Blowing my
have in your
mind.
life, you can't get it if
Yeah.
if you're full of stuff already. You have to let stuff go, and that will change your health. It will change your mental health. It will change your relationships. It will change everything and open the doors to opportunities by just really, really releasing that stuff that shouldn't be there anymore.
You're blowing my mind. I obviously I'm dating, whatever. So it's been like a really fun. I was with my ex-husband from when I was very young too. Like we met like when I was like 19, 20. And my very first boyfriend when I was 13 was really intense and amazing. I loved him. And he wrote me a letter every day in the summer. And I have this huge stack of letters that I've never let go from when I was 13. And can I just tell you that like I have never been able, like, I think that every man I've ever dated has like been kind of like a carbon copy. Like but it's like, doesn't quite get it right. And so I think it's time now that I think you've just convinced me that I can just actually let this go now. So I can welcome in something new and better.
There you go. And that's so fascinating, because by hanging on to that stuff and that energy that belonged to him, you are subconsciously or not comparing everyone to him, but they don't measure up.
Yeah. And actually, like, I don't want, like, we broke up for a reason. I mean, we were very young, but like,
Oh, 13.
totally
Yeah.
right. But there are like, what's interesting about this, it's, even though he was wonderful, like I was very insecure in the relationship. And I find that I tend to gravitate towards men that actually make me feel insecure, when there's a whole bunch of men that make me feel like the queen of the world, but like I can't like get into it. So maybe this this is
This was for
what
you.
I need to do.
I find it fascinating, no matter what I'm doing and who I'm talking to, I get pulled in a certain direction for a reason.
Yeah.
And it usually ends up lining up with something that somebody needs to hear. And sometimes I'll just say, to whoever I'm talking to, I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't concentrate on what you're asking me because I keep getting told that I have to share this information. It has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but obviously somebody listening needs it.
Yeah.
So I let that just kind of be my guide. But yeah, I think it's time. Let him go. Thank him. But what you could do is you could burn them. Don't
Well,
like throw them away. That
yeah.
feels dismissive.
Yeah.
But maybe do a little burn and just burn them and thank him for what he brought to your life, and then just say, I won't forget you, but it's time to let this physical representation of it just go, and honor it with a little burn.
Thank you very much for my
You're welcome.
personal feng shui and therapy session. Sorry for everybody listening. This turned into the Jordana show.
Oh,
But okay, so I could talk to you forever. I wish I could, truly. You will not see the end of me for sure. Can we pull a card for
yes,
audience?
yes,
And then,
yes. So,
okay, we'll start with that.
so what's really funny is this is another one where I got thrown on my ass again too, because I was being told to create this card deck, which is called "What Shall I Feng Shui Today?" And it's basically like, if you're not ready for me, or you just want to try and do this yourself, it's 77 cards. They're all feng shui. They're all super practical. They're not really woo woo. That's what my son says. He goes, Mom, I love the deck because it's not woo woo. I'm like, okay, but they're practical. So they help you just get things done. It's a lot of like what we talked about today. Like, what can you physically do to change your surroundings, right? Without getting into the really crazy stuff. I was not listening. yet again, even after all this stuff. And all of a sudden I got COVID, and COVID got followed. I'm cutting the cards just in case people are wondering what I'm doing. Um, COVID turned into the shingles, and I still kind of kept moving around, except that then the shingles were on my entire left side of my face, my head, and my neck. So suddenly I couldn't leave my house for 3 weeks. Sound familiar? And during those 3 weeks, I channeled this whole deck.
Of course you did. You're like, thanks,
I'm
Coach.
like, so I'm trying to learn and be like, okay, before you like, strike me down again, like Zeus, it's like, I'm trying to be better at listening before I get struck down to like a point. So we shall see. All right, let's see what comes up. So the card that I'm pulling today, my intention is to pull for this audience and or for you, for whoever is meant to hear it. So let's see what your little feng shui, what should you feng shui today is. Oh, I like this. Add the traditional cure of sound to a room or an area that feels empty. So play music or walk around ringing a bell for a few minutes. So if a place or a part of your home doesn't get used on an everyday basis or feels stagnant, and maybe because you're in a temporary space, stagnation.
Totally.
So walk around and ring a bell or play some music. And sound is one of the 9 traditional cures. There are nine cures that are considered traditional in feng shui. Moving objects, water, sound, light, that's just one way to kind of help stir up the energy that's stagnant, and stagnant equals dead, and dead equals no growth, right? So we always want to keep the chi moving throughout your house, especially once you've welcomed it through your front door.
Totally. Okay. This might be one of my favorite podcasts ever. So thank you very, very, very much for this. I'm sure everybody listening feels the same way. We will link up all like your Instagram, your website, everything in the show notes. But if you want to just tell people kind of where you live, like, are you a TikTok girl, are you Instagram, or like, are you mostly website, and then how they can find you?
Sure. I focus on Instagram because it's just too much for me, and it's just too much noise out there. So Instagram is where it's easiest to find me, and it's Alejandra G. Brady Lifestyled. And then, my website, alejandrabrady.com, that's where you can sign up for the consultations, and you can get the book. I mean, the book's on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, wherever you buy books, but the card deck and all my other fun stuff, my crystal shui kits and all that, is on the website.
Oh, thank you so
You're
much.
so welcome. This was fun.
Such an awesome, awesome podcast. You made my day. I can't wait to chat more, but just from the bottom of my heart, truly thank you. Thank you for what you do. And I hope, if you guys are listening and you like this podcast and you might feel like somebody in your life might need it, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And we'll see you back on another episode of the Mindful Method podcast. Bye.
Bye.